Journey back to 1992. id Software releases Wolfenstein 3D, what is considered one of the first FPS games. It used simple 3D graphics to provide an experience unlike anything else available at the time. id are commonly regarded as the creators of the first-person shooter genre. But now, 27 years later, a lot has changed. Computers are more powerful, and game engines are more capable. And the FPS genre is still going strong. But this series isn't about whether any of these games are good or bad. It's really about how good the guns feel. And I'll give you a hint, it's not always about realism. In Gunplay, we'll be taking a close look at the firearms of various first-person shooters across multiple episodes. Each will be rated based on what I've deemed the 5 most important aspects: impact, sound, weight, animation, and accuracy. However, it's important to remember that all of these aspects are handled differently depending on the context of the game. Different games have different goals, and what's going on directly around the guns can have a strong influence on the actual gunplay as well. But that's enough chit-chat. Let's get into it, starting with 2013's best first-person shooter release. Metro Last Light is a first-person shooter developed by 4A Games and published by Deep Silver, released 2013. It's one of the most immersive and atmospheric games out there, and it's got no shortage of guns. Last Light has an extremely unique and varied arsenal. Every gun feels completely different from the rest, with the classic revolver, the hulking Asbat's chain-fed shotgun, and just about everything in between. It's also definitely worth noting that every single weapon can be upgraded and customized with different attachments. These can be purchased using the in-game currency, military-grade ammo. With the ability to invest in weapons and become genuinely attached to them, guns do end up feeling a bit more special. And when playing on higher difficulties like Ranger Hardcore, every single shot counts, so hold on to that AK for dear life. But as for how the guns actually perform, well, they don't disappoint. Most of the weapons in Last Light hit like a truck. Whenever shooting an enemy, human or otherwise, they react very clearly. The game can be played with hit markers enabled to add a little extra fun, but even when they're turned off, it's still incredibly easy to know when you've hit your target. Even when shooting at a soldier dressed in full body armor who simply refuses to die, sparks will fly off the metal plates until a shot finally breaks through. Combined with massive sprays of blood and slightly exaggerated ragdolls, I don't think it could be any more clear that you just killed the shit out of a guy. Shooting targets gives a fantastic feeling of impact that not many other games can quite match. Sure, most of these effects aren't really apparent when playing stealth, but that's kind of the point. And though stealth gameplay is more rewarding in the end, sometimes it's more fun to just go all out. When it comes to sound, Last Light is inconsistent. The overall sound design is quite good, including environmental and monster sounds, but not all the guns sound that great. Most of the shotguns are good. Pistols sound alright as well. But the assault rifles really lack in the audio department. A lot of the poor audio effects are covered up by the huge amounts of reverb in most levels, but if you listen closely, you'll notice it ain't that great. And some of the guns don't necessarily sound bad, they just seriously lack that satisfying punch. Reload sounds are probably some of the worst I've heard in a while. There isn't much to say about them, most just simply don't sound good. When it comes to gunplay, sound quality is where Last Light lacks the most. Weight is probably one of the most difficult things to judge when it comes to video game guns. It's kinda hard to tell how heavy something is without actually holding it. So pretty much all there is to go off of is how guns react to player input, such as walking, sprinting, and looking around. Ideally, guns shouldn't be too floaty, otherwise it'd feel like loosely waving around a PVC pipe. But they also shouldn't be locked to the corner of your screen without any movement whatsoever. That'll have about the same effect. The key is finding a good balance, and this is something that Last Light does fairly well. The guns react to player input just about how you'd expect. They feel heavy, like they're actually being held in your character's hands. The only time the guns feel lighter than they should is when swapping weapons. The animation feels faster than it should be, especially considering that the game sets out to achieve as much immersion as possible. Animation is another aspect of gunplay that Last Light is oddly inconsistent with. Many of the reload animations feel uncomfortably stiff or sluggish and unfinished, but then a few actually do look pretty decent, with the Shambler being by far the best.
Literally the greatest thing ever made.
However, when it comes to recoil animations, Last Light performs much better. It can get a little bit crazy when shooting certain weapons fully auto, but it always succeeds to make guns feel more powerful, which of course is the ultimate goal here. Recoil feels realistic and natural. Another fine little detail is the Bastard gun's tendency to overheat and jam. Unfortunately, this is the only gun that does that, and it would definitely have a welcome place for the other weapons, at least for the people who enjoyed Far Cry 2. But even with these nice details, there's no disputing the poor quality of the reload animations. Before I start talking about accuracy, I should explain a little more about what that actually means. For the purposes of this video, accuracy doesn't exactly refer to how far from center your bullets land. After all, pretty much every game has bullet deviation for balancing purposes. Accuracy instead refers to whether or not bullets feel like they're actually coming out of the barrel of your gun. The reason Last Light does so well with this feeling has to do with the aforementioned recoil animations. If we look a little closer, we can see the rifle slightly shaking back and forth in all directions, which shows us that bullet deviation actually corresponds with the movement of the rifle. Bullets don't just fly out of your face in some magical cone pattern. They actually do feel like they're coming out of the barrel, no matter how intense the recoil. It's such a small detail, but it goes so far to improve the feeling of Last Light's gunplay. Sure, semi-automatic weapons don't quite get the same effect. They pretty much always shoot right on target. But still, I have to commend 4A for their efforts with this game. If I'm being totally honest, I really don't know how many games have included this little detail. Since before starting this series, I've never really looked this closely at any video game's guns. But so far, Last Light takes the cake for best accuracy mechanics. It takes more than just guns to make a good game, but when it comes to the shooter genre, gunplay is one of the most important parts, and even the best can always improve. So I hope that this series will help to show what makes a game's gunplay good or bad. New episodes will be coming soon, but if there's any games you want me to take a look at in the future, please leave them down in the comments. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.